Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're going deep, deep into the world of coffee preparation.
That's right. We're going to take you on a journey from bean to cup, exploring everything that goes into crafting that perfect brew.
Sounds delicious already. But where should we even start?
Well, I think the best place to begin is right at the beginning, with the beans themselves.
Okay, so raw coffee beans.
hmm
What's the first step in turning those little green guys into something drinkable?
Roasting. Roasting is where those beans really start to transform.
Ah, so that's where that amazing coffee smell comes from.
Exactly. And it's not just about the smell, it's about, well, everything. The color, the flavor, the aroma, it all comes down to roasting. You see, when you roast a coffee bean, it actually expands.
Oh, yeah, like popcorn.
Pretty much. They almost double in size. They change color, too. From green to, well, all those lovely shades of brown.
And you get those oils appearing on the surface, like the beans are sweating.
Well, not quite sweating, but yeah.
Yeah.
The oils rise to the surface as the bean absorbs heat.
So more than just giving a nice tan then.
Oh, way more. Roasting is where all those complex flavors start to develop, and it's a delicate process.
I bet. How do you even roast coffee? Special equipment?
Well, you can roast coffee with simple kitchen equipment if you want to try it at home, but there are also professional roasters that are used to really fine-tune the process.
So what happens if you, mess up the roasting?
Well, if you roast the beans for too long, they can become burnt and bitter. But if you don't roast them long enough, they'll be underdeveloped and, well, not very tasty.
So it's a tightrope walk.
You could say that. It's an art form, really. Finding that perfect balance of heat and time to bring out the best in each bean.
Okay, so now we have these perfectly roasted beans. What's next? We just chuck them in some hot water.
Not so fast. Before we get to brewing, we need to talk about grinding.
Ah, grinding. Yeah, just chucking whole beans in water probably wouldn't work too well.
Not unless you like chewing your coffee. Grinding is all about breaking those beans down to expose more of their surface area. And that surface area is crucial for brewing.
Right, so the water can, really get in there and extract all the good stuff.
Exactly. And how finely you grind those beans is going to make a big difference in your final cup.
Okay, so how do we grind these beans? Is there a right way?
Well, there are a few different methods. Some people use blade grinders, others prefer burr grinders, and some folks even go old school with a mortar and pestle.
Hold on. Back up a sec. Burr grinder. Blade grinder. What's the difference?
Good question. A blade grinder is kind of like a tiny little blender. It has blades that chop up the beans. But the problem is it doesn't always create a consistent grind. You end up with some big chunks and some fine powder, which can lead to uneven extraction.
Ah, I see. So that's why sometimes my coffee tastes a little bit off.
Could be. Now, a burr grinder uses two rotating burrs to crush the beans. And because you can adjust the distance between those burrs, you get a much more uniform grind.
So burr grinder equals better coffee.
It definitely gives you more control over the process, and that means a more consistent, flavorful brew.
Makes sense. All right, so we've roasted our beans, we've ground them to perfection. Now we're ready to brew, right?
Almost. We're just getting started.
Really? There's more.
Oh, yeah, brewing is where things get really interesting. We'll dive into all that right after the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Last time, we were talking about grinding those perfectly roasted beans.
Right, getting them ready for the main event, brewing.
Exactly. And let me tell you, the world of coffee brewing is vast and fascinating. There are so many different ways to extract those delicious flavors from your beans.
Well, let's get brewing then. Where do we start?
Okay, so when it comes to brewing methods, there are a few main families or categories we can explore. We've got decoction, infusion, gravity-powered methods, and pressure brewing.
Whoa, that's a lot. Let's break it down. What's decoction?
Decoction is all about boiling. Think cowboy coffee, or the way coffee is traditionally made in some parts of the world, where you just toss the grounds right into a pot of boiling water.
Ah, so it's like the OG method, just straight up boiling those grounds.
Pretty much. It might sound simple, but it can actually produce a very bold and flavorful cup of coffee.
I can imagine. What about infusion? That sounds a little gentler.
Infusion is more about steeping. Like, with tea, the French press is a great example of an infusion method.
Ah, the French press, my go-to. So you just let those grounds hang out in the hot water for a while.
Yeah. You pour hot water over the grounds, let them steep for a few minutes, and then press down the plunger to separate the coffee from the grounds.
It's so satisfying pushing down that plunger. And it makes a great cup of coffee. What other kinds of infusion methods are out there?
Well, you've got things like coffee bags, similar to tea bags,
Mm.
and there's the Malaysian sock method, where they use a muslin bag to hold the grounds.
A coffee sock? That's a new one. I'm going to have to Google that later. Okay, so we've got boiling, we've got steeping. What about those gravity-powered methods you mentioned?
Ah, yes. Gravity. This is where your drip coffee makers come in. The classic drip method relies on, well, gravity to pull hot water down through the coffee grounds and into a carafe.
Right, the kind of coffee maker you see in pretty much every office break room.
Exactly. You've got your automatic drip machines, which are super convenient, and then there's the pour-over method.
Pour over. That's the one where you like artfully pour the water over the grounds in a slow circular motion,
Yeah,
right?
you got it. It's become very popular. It gives you a lot more control over the brewing process. You
Mm.
can really experiment with different pouring techniques to find what you like best.
Sounds pretty zen, actually. All right, so those are the gravity-powered methods. What about the last one? Pressure brewing.
Ah, yes, pressure brewing. This is where things get intense. We're talking about using pressure to force hot water through finely ground coffee.
So we're talking about espresso.
Espresso is the classic example of pressure brewing, and it's the base for so many other coffee drinks, lattes, cappuccinos, macchiatos, the list goes on.
Yeah, I love a good latte.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so espresso is made with pressure.
Yeah.
What else falls into this category?
Well, you've got the mucka pot, which is a stovetop coffee maker that uses steam pressure to brew a strong, concentrated coffee.
Those little mocha pots are so cute, and they make seriously strong coffee, too.
They do. And then there's the AeroPress, which is a manual device that uses a combination of pressure and a filter. It's a favorite among coffee enthusiasts because it's versatile and produces a really smooth cup.
And let's not forget about those single-serving coffee machines.
Oh yeah, those pod machines are super convenient, especially if you're just making a cup for yourself.
It's amazing how many different ways there are to brew coffee.
Isn't it? And each method produces a slightly different flavor profile. It's all about finding what you like best.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore. What happens after we've brewed our coffee? How do we ensure we're getting the most out of those precious beans?
Great question. That's where the concept of extraction comes in. It's all about how much of those delicious coffee compounds we're actually pulling out of the grounds during brewing.
Okay, now we're getting into the science of coffee. I'm ready to dive deeper. Okay, so we've explored a whole world of brewing methods, from simple boiling to fancy pressure brewing. But now, let's talk about extraction.
Ah, yes, extraction, the heart of good coffee. It's about, well, getting the most out of those coffee grounds.
Right, but what exactly does that mean? How do we extract the good stuff from those beans?
Think of it this way. When you brew coffee, you're essentially dissolving certain compounds from the coffee grounds into the water.
So it's like making coffee-flavored water?
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. But yeah, you're extracting soluble compounds like oils and acids from the grounds. And the key is to extract just the right amount.
Because too much extraction would make it taste bad.
Exactly. Over-extraction can lead to a bitter, harsh cup of coffee. And under-extraction, well, that gives you a weak, sour brew.
So we need to find that Goldilocks zone, like with roasting.
Precisely. And there are a few key factors that influence extraction. We've already touched on one, grind size.
Right, the finer the grind, the more surface area is exposed to the water.
And that means faster extraction. So if you're using a fine grind, you'll need to adjust your brewing time accordingly. Otherwise, you'll end up with an over-extracted bitter brew.
Makes sense. So what else affects extraction besides grind size?
Well, water temperature is another biggie. Hotter water extracts faster, of course.
Right, like how sugar dissolves faster in hot water.
Exactly. The ideal water temperature for brewing coffee is between 195 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything hotter, and you risk scorching the coffee and losing those delicate flavors. And if the water's too cold, you won't extract enough, leaving you with a weak cup.
Okay, so we've got grind size, water temperature, what else?
Brewing time. This one's pretty straightforward. The longer you brew, the more extraction you get. But again, it's about finding that sweet spot. Too long, and you'll get over-extraction. Too short, and you'll be under-extracted.
Got it. Grind size, water temperature, brewing time. Anything else I need to worry about?
Ah, one more thing. The brew ratio. This refers to the ratio of coffee grounds to water that you use.
So like how much coffee I'm using for a certain amount of water.
Exactly. The general rule of thumb is to use about 1 gram of coffee for every 15 to 16 milliliters of water. But of course, you can adjust this to your personal taste.
I never realized there was so much to think about when it comes to making coffee.
It's true. But once you understand the basics of extraction, you can really start to fine-tune your brewing process and create your perfect cup. It's like being a coffee scientist.
This has been an amazing journey. We've gone from raw beans all the way to understanding the science behind extraction.
And hopefully you've learned a few things along the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the most important takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I'd say the most important thing is to experiment. Don't be afraid to try different brewing methods, grind sizes, water temperatures, all that good stuff. It's all about finding what works best for you and your taste buds.
So get out there, explore the world of coffee, and enjoy the journey.
Cheers to that.